Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have 6 p.m. on my computer time, so I'd like to welcome everybody to the City of Dexter City Council meeting of Monday, October 26th. If you would please join me by your standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Julie will follow your lead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which
and
it
to
stands,
One nation.
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for
liberty
all.
and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're down to item B on the agenda, which is roll call. Reminder to all council members and student representatives to please state where you are virtually watching from or participating from, and simple city and county or city and state is sufficient.
Or township.
Or you could provide as much detail as you want to, but that's sufficient.
All it's going to print is city and state or township and state or something like that, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Bell.
Present in Dexter, Michigan.
Councilmember Cousins.
Councilman Cousins.
And
on
I have not
Forest
seen
Street-
him.
Forest Street on, in Dexter.
Oh, there you
Michigan.
are. Okay. Councilmember Fisher.
She's on the list there, but she's no sound.
No
Nope.
sound. I don't know if she can hear and wave at us. I don't know. Okay, I'm not seeing it.
Doesn't have video on either.
Right. Okay. Well, I see it trying to connect, so we'll do that.
Right.
And I assume she's in her home in Dexter. So, Councilmember Knight,
Here from Dexter, Michigan.
Councilmember Michelle's,
President from America's High Five State, Dexter.
Councilmember Smith,
Here in Dexter, Michigan.
Student Rep Alex Gilbert,
Here from Dexter, Michigan.
and Alex, are you in the city?
No, I'm outside the city.
Okay. Okay. What township are you in? Do you know?
Webster Township.
Webster. Okay, that's good. That's what I need. Student Rep Isabella Malik.
Here, okay, I'm on the road coming home from soccer practice, so technically I'm in Brighton, Michigan, but I will be in Dexter, Michigan, so in like
Okay.
10 minutes.
Okay. Well. Okay.
So-
Will you be in the city?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We can put you on the road to there. And Mayor Keough.
Participating virtually from my home in Dexter, Michigan. Okay, thank you everyone
Okay,
for
thank you.
joining us. Item C is approval of meeting minutes, and we don't have any to approve this evening since we just had a meeting a week ago. So we're down to item D, which is prearranged participation. And we have two entities to hear from and talk to today. Our first is from Norfolk Development, Mr. Sean LaFear. So Justin, if you could unmute Sean for me, please.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Just wanted to kind of circle back around with the city, kind of after, this past summer and this year with everything going on and what our plans are moving forward. We believe that, again, that, the building 3 that we've always referred to out of the 3 different buildings, building 3 being the office building, has a lot going for it from a performance standpoint. That building seems to work in today's current conditions. So we've started working on drawings and the pro forma and the budget on that building, and working with Quinn Evans, the architect, and MCI, the engineer. We'll be starting to finalize our plans and be submitting for site plan approval, hopefully this early spring. maybe a little right after the first of the year, February or so, is what we're shooting for to take this project to the next step, which will be the building 3 phase of the project. Currently working with the adjacent homeowners right now. I'm trying to finalize a deal with them. And the project again that we're talking about has office space, retail, and a residential section to it. We are still, we know the first floor will be office and some sort of retail. The second floor was always office, and we're looking at possibly doing the second floor a residential section and office. Hopefully, and by the time we get through the approval process through the site plan, we'll have a little bit better picture of what the economics look like from or I should say a market looks like for the residential component versus a office component. So we're kind of, if you look at it, is we're gonna design a little vanilla box that we can make that adjustment further on down the road. But we do want to move forward with the project. The new project, if we do get the adjacent parcels, we'll have a parking in the rear of the buildings and a second level parking deck on it. So we're, we've heard a lot through our time working with the city and the surrounding businesses that, although, parking is available in the city and in that area, it is still a very prominent part of somebody wanting office space and retail. So, we are adding that parking component to the project. So I wanted to just get in front of you guys tonight a little bit, to bring you up to speed on where we're at. And then the second part is we've started this whole project being in kind of partnership with the city throughout it. And we've had talks about the city, the possibility of the city looking to move their offices to this. And I've always said from day one is, the project's gonna move forward with or without the city, but you have been a partner. I kind of look at it as if, it's kind of almost a first rate of refusal. So, we want to kind of put it out there to the city to start those discussions. If they have interest moving forward with the city, to start laying out a little bit of a timeline of where we're going. And the last thing we want to do is lease out the first floor, lease out the building, and not have you guys have the opportunity to move there. So again, we're going to move forward with it, but we would love to have you guys join in the project as you've been a partner through the whole process and have been great to work with. So that is kind of our timeline, where we're going with things. So hopefully in the next couple months here, by the spring, and knock on wood, hopefully this COVID stuff all starts to get behind us moving into next year. So that's kind of a brief overview of where things are at right now. Yeah. Questions?
Sean, thank you for the update on things. So what do you see then as a process when you get to the point where you want to ask the city if we're interested? What kind of process would you describe, or could you describe that process? What would be the first step in your mind, and then how would you see that proceeding so that council has kind of an idea of what to expect if that's the direction we should decide to go?
Sure. I think the first thing we'd probably put together would be, some sort of letter of intent that kind of, hey, you guys are interested in it. And then that would give a time frame. Within that, we lay out a time frame for us to work out kind of the outline of the, whether it's a purchase agreement or a lease agreement. That's up to the city as well. They want to, we'll take the building and we'll kind of make it a condominium. So you could purchase your section, or if you want to do a long-term lease with it, but those are things we can work through. So the first part would be, again, kind of a letter of intent that, hey, we're working towards this. That gives us some comfort of, let's continue to put the architect, the Quinn Evans, start getting them working on the buildings. So during that time frame, we can work out the kind of the outline of the, again, whether it's purchase agreement or lease. So we'd be looking for some sort of commitment out of you guys within the next, month, 2 months, 60 days from the letter of intent standpoint of it. And then, we can, by spring, hopefully by the time we're submitting for site plan approval, we'll have had time to work out, what the terms and what the details are of the, again, whether it's a lease agreement or a purchase agreement.
Gotcha. Okay, so that helps. So if spring is roughly mid to late March, something like that, you'd want to start those letter of intent discussions somewhere in mid-January then.
Yeah, so obviously the sooner the better, that just gives us more comfort, but I understand, working with municipality, it's not one individual here. So there's those discussions have to happen amongst yourselves. But obviously the sooner the better to get those deals worked out. Purchase agreements and deals like that, it seems like, they don't happen overnight. So the sooner we can start on it, the better. But I understand also that, you're working with a council versus a individual landowner.
Gotcha. Michelle, I see you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just wondered, Sean, what about the brownfield plan? Where are you in that?
Yeah, so the brownfield plan is, again, I'll refer to buildings 1 and 2. So building 3 is completely outside of the brownfield area. So this doesn't take into there. We are still trying to work on, buildings 2 and 3. Again, we want to see the entire project move forward, but our focus currently has been on building 3.
So, Sean, just for clarity, if you do the brownfield plan, even though the area for building 3 doesn't have any remediation that's necessary, if you do the brownfield plan for the entire, what we call the 3045 Broad Street development project, you can build up value or build up funds from the revenue that is generated in building 3 to help cover some of those costs that have become a hurdle in buildings 1 and 2.
Yes, that's a great point. You're correct. It's a great point. And I will get with SME and we'll circle back. And I don't have the answer for you right now, but
That's fine. Just want to make sure that we cover all bases. And I think if you talk with James, he can provide way more detail about it than I ever could for you. So
I will give them a call tomorrow.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on council or staff have a question? I appreciate the update, Sean.
Absolutely.
I have just one quick one. Sean, does the building 3 site necessitate a reworking of the road?
It does not. What will happen if we build building 3 with the road alignment as is right now, the Broad Street side will have a larger, call it front lawn. And then when we can reconfigure the road construction, we'll basically take the front lawn out. So we'll build the structures as if the road was, realigned, but we won't realign the road until we do the other building. So we'll just kind of have a bigger lawn area for the time being.
Thank you. And then once again, describe, you said it's a 2-story building with a parking in the rear on the 2nd level. So there's parking
we're
below.
Looking at anywhere from a 3 to 4 level building in there. And that's, we'll bring those back to the city when we get done designing it. But behind, if you recall, it was kind of like an L-shaped building.
Yes.
And the interior of the L would be where the parking lot was. So we're trying to add parking spots there. So we'll do a parking deck there. So it'll be 2 stories of parking.
So there's the first floor, the second floor, and then there's 2 levels. There's actually 3 or 4 levels in the building itself, then you're saying?
That's correct, which those will be residential. So, you know, what we're kind of going back and forth on is the second level. Does that stay, you know, do we need 2 levels of office / retail, or do we need 1.5?
All right. You didn't mention the note levels, and I was trying to figure out what that meant. Thank you very much.
Sorry about the confusion.
No, not, probably me.
Thanks for asking those questions, Paul. It's good that we clarify what we heard, so that's good. Other questions for Sean while we have him here? Okay. Thank you very much for participating this evening and for your update, and keep us posted, please.
All righty, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Have a good evening.
Okay, you
Thanks,
too.
Sean.
All right, bye.
Next up, under prearranged participation from Ann Arbor Spark is our representative, Jennifer Olmstead. Jennifer, I think you're online.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Justin, you were going to let me, I wasn't sure what my background was going to look like tonight, so I put up a couple slides just to have a better background. So I'm going to share those with you.
Yeah, let me open up share settings.
But I guess while Justin's doing that, I just wanted to thank you for your support of regional economic development. You provide funding for economic development.
Oh, Jennifer's been muted accidentally.
Okay, hello.
There you go.
I didn't do that though, right?
Yeah, I think that was me accidentally. Sorry. Are you able to share now?
Okay, let's see. Yes, I think so. Let's see. Okay.
There we go.
Can everybody see? Let's see. Okay. Don't worry, I'll be quick. Don't let the slides scare you. I just wasn't sure what my background was going to be like, but I wanted to thank you again for for participating in our regional economic development. This update this year is obviously a little different. A big focus of our activities this year have been responding to COVID. So in March, we were, when COVID hit and the governor ordered restaurants shut down, we worked with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to disperse funding in the form of grants to businesses in Washtenaw County. And then about 2 months later, a foundation approached us. They wanted to help small businesses. And since we already had the infrastructure in place, it would be a lot easier for us to give the money than them. They worked with us. And then again, later in the summer, there was another program called the Michigan Restart Program. So in total, there was 3 different grant programs that dispersed $4.6 million in Washtenaw County. The demand was overwhelming. Over 45 million was requested by 2,500 different businesses, and we only had funding for about 900 companies and a total of 4.6 million. So this is kind of a map of our county, and to zero in on Dexter, we were able to deploy over $100,000 in small grants to 20 different companies in the city of Dexter, and the different colors are the different grant programs. And here's just a list of the 20 different companies that were granted funding, anywhere from $2,000 to up to $10,000. And as you can see, a large focus on restaurants and small businesses that were forced to close. And some of these, I think most of these has a physical location, but the grant was based on where your business was registered. So there were a couple places that I know Michelle was like, wait, they're not in Dexter, but they live in Dexter, and that is their business address. And obviously this was a huge group effort. We had a review committee made up of small business leaders in Washtenaw County. So big thank you to Washtenaw Community College Entrepreneur Center and the Small Business Development Center and the business leaders. So that was our review committee. The idea was to get the grants out quickly, right? So you could help. So we did it in record time, and it was gratifying, but also hard because, you know, there was so much need and obviously not enough money for everybody. Another thing that we participated in since March is we put up a resource page and have been communicating to businesses through our newsletter about resources that were available. I know working with Michelle, there was like a retool grant that the state had for companies who were pivoting their business to respond to providing PPE. And so as grant programs become available, we outreach to our companies to let them know of those resources, and that website is still active. Another thing we did, and this is kind of a cool thing, you can find this on the web if you Google PPP funding, but we wanted to check to make sure like what companies in Washtenaw County were able to get the payroll protection program. And it's nice to see that over 40 companies in Dexter actually received funding of over $150,000 up to $2 million. And actually the largest bank in terms of transactions in Dexter was Chelsea State Bank, so a very local effort. And then it doesn't provide information, but if you were a business that applied for PPP funding under 150, you didn't have to give your business name, but we know that over 200 businesses in zip code 48130 did get PPP funding. And so here's a list of the companies that did get funding. And this is all based on, it turns right into a grant if you retain those employees. So within Dexter, just for the large PPP funds, we know that companies were able to retain over 1,000 employees. So here's just sort of a listing of those companies, and the companies that we typically work with are in bold. This information, again, is all public information. And I can give Michelle a copy of the presentation. And then I guess the big highlight was nice to celebrate some good news. So I know Michelle and I both got to participate in the groundbreaking in September at UIS's for their new building. We do see companies in Dexter who are looking for talent. And right now we're still seeing across the county, there's a mismatch between companies who need people, and obviously unemployment is a lot larger, but I know our manufacturing companies are still struggling to fill positions. So that's just sort of an update on some of our activities. I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions for Jennifer? I thought that was a very informative report, Jennifer. I was wondering about some of those statistics and companies, so it's very helpful to me.
Oh, good.
So you could send that whole presentation over, did you say?
Sure. Yeah, and we have another thing that details it out, but yes, I'm happy to do that. And I could even put it, I'm not going to try to get too technological. I'll just send it to you. I was like going to put it in your chat, but I'll just send it over.
Yeah, if you just send it to Michelle, that would be great. I think we have a question from Zach, if you're still there. Zach,
Yep.
Go ahead, please.
Yep. This is kind of a future looking question since things are all a bit wonky now, but the last couple of times when I went on the tech trek before COVID world, I would ask the folks there about Dexter, and most of those folks thought it was a podunky place. We still hang gear from posts in our downtown. And so I guess question for you, or at least I'm going to plant the seed for you, is what could the city do to start to attract some of those higher tech companies into our town?
Well, Zach, I can always count on you to ask a tech question, so
I know.
thank you. But I guess one thing, everything's sort of on hold right now. I mean, we're working with companies, we haven't had a lot of movement, but of interest to Dexter. I mean, and when you talk to our brokers in the community, I mean, as people are getting used to working from home, right, and don't want the commute that they like. So when they go back to the office, a lot of people are speculating on how things are going to change. I haven't seen anything yet. I've seen anecdotal things, right? You know, when you read the paper, but in talking, one thing is like co-working space, and things could pop up in downtown. An opportunity for downtown Dexter, because people are like, wait, I don't want to commute. And now maybe my company is giving me funding, or I can set up a small office, right? I don't want to work from my home, but I don't want to drive that far. So there could be an opportunity. People are speculating, you know, for co-working or people wanting to be closer to home. So smaller communities could benefit from that. And that's something you'll want to position yourself in, right? And obviously Wi-Fi, and making sure you have the infrastructure move-in ready, right? Companies want move-in ready buildings. They don't want to have to do anything. So that's going to be important to make sure, working with your landlords and things like that, that the building space is ready to move in.
Thank you.
Jennifer,
Not
this is
seeing-
Paul.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Paul Cousins. Michelle gave us a development project update here, and I noticed that MedHub left the area here to go to Minneapolis. Was there anything that we could have done to stop that? It was going to be inevitable.
No, you know what? They're a company. It was the acquisition, and I think the founders were, you know, didn't want to be part of a larger company. But that's a company who had won our fast track award for a number of years. We had recognized them, and in the last couple of years, because I reached out to Michelle, like they were becoming non-responsive. You know what I mean? So it's just something that unfortunately happens when companies acquire other companies, or just sort of the cycle of a company. So yeah, no, I don't think there was anything
We could have done.
that you
Okay.
could do.
All right. I know some of the guys, and I was surprised to hear that. And I know it's they paid pretty well out there for the people that work there. I know that. Thank you.
But some of them are still working here just from home, but they don't have an office.
Yeah.
So we don't know the stats on that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So that space is empty then at the Gilbert building? Is that right?
Yes.
Where they were? Okay.
Yeah, they're putting up the whole building for lease. So I've been talking to Swisher about that space and how to promote that. But I mean, there's a lot, we're seeing a lot of activity, but nobody, like, because I feel like people have more time to strategically plan, but I haven't seen anything of substantial, like a size of that building that's had movement in terms of people signing leases. But I know Swisher has said they've had a lot of movement on the smaller side, but it is definitely picking up.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the report this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time, and thank you for delaying your report from 2 meetings ago when it got canceled. So good to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is item E, which is approval of the agenda. I see Jim Smith has his hand up.
I'll move we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, moved by Smith. Scott, you have your hand up?
Support.
Second by Mr. Bell. Thank you both. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Jones, if you'd please call the vote to approve the agenda.
Yes. Cousins,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher, Keo.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, we have one public hearing this evening to hear comment on our water and sewer ordinance amendments that are proposed. We're not planning to take action until sometime in November, but we're we've had the public hearing scheduled for tonight. So I will open the public hearing, Ms. Jones, at 6:30.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the audience or otherwise that would like to make a comment about the proposed amendments? I'm not seeing any hands up.
Mr.
Um,
McCarter.
Mr.
Oh,
McCarter has his hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay. Jim, welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Quick comment here, and this was not my intended primary reason for being here. I have thought in the past about the whole issue of having two different water meters and getting billed for each one, even if your system essentially goes into hibernation for a big chunk of the season. And I actually we have that system, not because we have an automatic lawn sprinkler, but because we use it to water our garden, vegetable garden and flowers. I've often thought, wow, I'm paying for this. And then I've immediately thought to myself, I'm pretty well off relative to a lot of people. And this is probably a zero-sum game for the people in the water department because they got to pay the people and the equipment and everything else. And they're figuring out a reasonable way to apportion this. So if I were to kind of make a squawk and say, can you come up with a way that sort of hibernates the bill at the same time that I hibernate my use of the water? I think it's something that I'd like to put out there for consideration. On the other hand, if what it means is just that it's going to squeeze the balloon somewhere else and somebody's going to have to pay more because I'm saying, it's kind of a weird situation. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't favor it at all. So I just throw that out there, top of my head.
Thank you for commenting, Jim. Appreciate your attendance on that. Okay, help me if I'm not seeing other people whose hands are up. I don't see any on the blue hands being up. If you're calling in on a phone, I should have mentioned earlier, you can hit *9 on your phone, which will also signify a raise hand to us on our participants window. Okay, Courtney, can I just have you go over the major changes? Not everyone, just the major stuff. Just read it from the packet for the record, please.
Yeah, so this has been a long-term effort the biggest reason why we started this was sorry, making sure I unmuted myself, was when we redid the mall study and we needed to adjust our phosphorus limits and just basically bring the ordinance in line with our current present day. So that was where it started, was the lowering of the phosphorus limit. And then we just basically standardized the billing and collection language because they were conflicting between the two, between water and sewer. We also clarified that the city will supply meters up to and including an inch. So that's basically everything residential. Anything larger than that's paid by the user. And then a lot of the sewer changes were just technical things related to the industrial user capital recovery charges. And like I said, implementing them all. I included the information because the state has to approve the ordinance, and she did get back to us, provided the feedback. Elaine Venema from F&V helped incorporate it. She's been extremely helpful with this process. And so Deb still needs to give it a final blessing, which I think should be coming anytime. I asked her if she could kind of expedite that so that I can finish this before my last day. So we've made all of her changes, so she should be providing that. That's why I don't have council adopting it. Plus, I just need to go through for the fine tuning of the section references and things. So I just wanted to make sure there were no further comments on it before we kind of finalize it for adoption. But I'm hoping, really significantly hoping that will be either the first or second meeting in November.
Okay.
But it's not too much that just an average user, the changes that, would impact an average user. They're a lot more on the technical side for
Gotcha.
industrial users.
Thank you for outlining that for those listening in council. Do I see any other hands, or are there any other hands on screens that I'm not seeing? Okay, again, we'll see this back either next meeting on the 9th of November or the following meeting in November likely. So we're down to non-arranged participation. This is the first of 2 opportunities on the agenda for those attending to speak on any topic. Is there anyone that wishes to speak this evening?
Sean, can you close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Carol. Thank you. Yeah, we'll close the public hearing at 6:35. Thank you
Thank
for that
you.
reminder. Need to make that note too. Okay. All right. Got ahead of myself. Item G, non-arranged participation. Mr. McCarter, I see your blue hand up. Thank you. And welcome.
Thanks again. Yeah, and I apologize for not using my blue hand a few minutes ago. I
No problem.
didn't have my participant window open. I originally, what I had to say tonight got preempted when I went through the packet. Because I noticed that a letter from a neighbor of mine, it's just a long block up the street, was in the packet. And I'm trying to go to the page in the packet. I think it's like
47.
47. There we are. Okay. There are, thank you. Yeah, Louis Servini, he lives right up the street, drives by our house all the time with his wife. There were 3 things in that letter that jumped out at me. The first one is that there is a call for affordable housing there, which I think is really important and something I support. And it's a painful one to read because of his long history in the village and the situation that he faces in wanting to stay in the community. So, you know, the idea of affordable housing as one of the ways of expressing our civic interest in people who are less fortunate, to me is a value that's extremely important. The second thing in that I wanted to point out is that the beginning of the letter what caught my eye was that it refers to the petition that was circulated in support of the charter amendment that's on the ballot. And I'm going to quote from it. It says, "Yes, I did sign that petition only to get," I believe this would have been only to get rid of the person doing the petition. I did not want to get in an argument with her. I want you officials to know that eventually voted no. And what I immediately thought about there was going back to one of the meetings with Avalon, where one of the leaders of the so-called Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government talked about the petition signatories and how the petition was clearly in opposition. It was a way to prevent the Avalon project, and how all of the signers of the petition were in opposition to that project. And I read this letter from Louis, and I went, "Ooh, yeah, what he said." And I think I made a comment at that May meeting about this situation. So that's the second thing. The third thing that I wanted to mention is that I was not able to attend the last meeting. I did get to view it and look at the materials, which I often do after the fact if I can't attend. And I am absolutely dismayed that Jamie Griffin, who is one of the co-leaders of this DCRG group and a current council candidate, resurrected dubious conflict of interest charges at council members and city manager Courtney Nichols. And I believe that our council and the paid staff deserve much, much better respect than was shown at that meeting, particularly because Courtney is leaving after 13 years of serving this community when she didn't have to stick around that long. I remember when she came, and I believe that she's generated exceptional work products, has had a very high ethical standard, and has acted on the best, in the best interest of our community, even though she may not stay here. And from a high quality set of personal values. So it's kind of tragic to me that Jamie would choose to lob hand grenades into that meeting, particularly at the time when there was a resolution on the agenda to accept Courtney's resignation and she moves to a new job. She just didn't deserve that, nor did the members of the council. And I think we're going to be really fortunate if we can find somebody who is as qualified and dedicated as Courtney. When we do, if we do, and it's big shoes, sorry, Courtney, hopefully it's going to be somebody who's going to be able to be on the receiving end of much better comments from the citizens of Dexter. I've spoken before what I consider to be sort of the citizens' contract when you move into the public sphere for respect and honesty and so forth. Last week just did not show that. I mean, it's particularly because of the timing with Courtney's departure, but it's also just particularly difficult in this time when so many people are struggling emotionally, with their jobs, with their families, with school, children, all of these things. And to resurrect that and lay it out in the way that it happened. Courtney, I feel so badly for you. I feel badly for the council. And I appreciate the fact that there are a couple of people on the call, Stephanie's one, I think, who spoke up shortly thereafter. So I am probably out of time, am I not, Mr. Keogh?
Pretty close, yes, sir.
Okay, I think I'll leave it at that then. I'm sad that you're leaving, Courtney. I know this is not your last session. I hope I'll be back, but I can't guarantee it. To give you a hats off. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. McCarter, for your comments, as always. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Justin, help me if I'm missing somebody or anyone.
Paul would like to speak.
Mr. Cousins.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Referring back to the last meeting that we had and the agenda item of reports by the mayor and the council, there was a motion to eliminate the council reports, and it passed. And I'd just like to make a comment on that, and I'll move forward. Being an old biology teacher, reminded of the lessons that we had when we taught about starfish. And starfish are unique individuals, a lot of different styles of them, colors, arms. But one thing they found out that happened with starfish is that the people that were harvesting clams and mussels and oysters, when they brought them up, they also brought up starfish. And so they figured that would kill them because they knew the starfish ate the clams and oysters. So they would hack them in two and throw them back in, not realizing that starfish have what they call a regeneration process. That regeneration process means that if you have some part of the main part of that organism, that a new organism can grow from there. And instead of having one, you may have 3 or 4 or 5. So with this now, and the silencing as I believe that I was in the interpretation of the report, and I say the interpretation of the report, I mean that it doesn't say that it has to be written. A report can be oral, and that's what I usually did when I referred to my report that I had there with the commentary about our rules that we had. So I think what you've just done is hack the starfish into 3 parts so that I can make comments at each one of these public hearings and also at the report at the end for council comments at the end of the meeting. So you've gone from 1 to 3 now. So to make comments on that, I would have to wait till the next meeting to reply to the mayor or to anybody else that made any comments on that area. And that's always 2 or 3 weeks away. And I thought it's more important that we have the comments to be at that point in time. And so the mayor's report on page 79 of the agenda on October the 12th is what I was going to refer to. And as I remember, that there are times I've made comments to these, but at no time did I ever make any comments to anything the mayor said if he didn't say anything about the fire hall or give us his opinion about it. And I did use the word poison the water because I think it does. And so with that, I refer to the words that he used in this report, the common ground. That was an interesting concept, but I'm not sure that in the civics in middle school or in government in high school that you ever learned about common ground after a vote was taken. The minority in the democratic process generally believes that they have lost the issue, and the majority generally carries out the issues with the help of staff. And that's exactly what we should be doing in this process with the fire hall and the city hall as well. And so to talk about common ground now and the statements about housing people, fire people in the present building and just remodeling it, I think flies against the issues and the actions that we've taken. Also remind you that the mayor always concludes his report asking if we have any comments or questions on his report. And yet the very next item, the council reports, I did that. But I never ever did it unless he made a comment that was contrary to what we'd already decided. And so I cannot refer to writing in the written rules. I don't think there's any interpretation of a report that says it has to be in writing, and it can be in an oral argument or an oral report. And with that, I guess my time was probably up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Is there anyone else who would like to speak under non-arranged? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item H, which is communications. We have 2, our upcoming meeting list and the letter from Louis Sirianni that was referenced earlier. Are there any council comments or staff questions or comments related to the communications? Okay, I think they're seeing none, so I'm going to move down to our first report tonight from our Treasurer, Finance Director, Assessor, Ms. Marie Sherry. Welcome, Marie.
Hello, Council.
Good evening.
First, I want to apologize if a cat pops up. He's 22 years old and he likes to Zoom bomb. So he's 22. You have my written report. I would like to call out how absolutely wonderful I think it is that we're almost 73% funded in our OPEB. A couple of years ago, the state of Michigan addressed the fact that many communities had not looked at this particular liability, but our council was way ahead of times. And it took a lot of discipline to get to this point. So I'm really proud of Dexter for getting to an almost 73% funding. The other thing I did want to mention that is in my report is that we are going to go live with Invoice Cloud, which is the new payment processing service, on November 9th. We plan on including inserts in the utility bill and in the tax bill, letting people know about this new service and how to access it and the fees involved with it, with the hope of transitioning ACHs off at the first bill after the new year. So, or maybe the second bill, depends on how the response to it goes. So those are the two things I just wanted to update or touch on from my report. And now just ask me if anybody has any questions.
I'm not seeing any. I think everybody's happy with the report there, Marie.
Great.
Thank you for your good work, as well as I'd like to compliment you on your budget document that is included as part of our consent agenda.
Oh, thank you. That's
really well done document. I know that more members of staff than just yourself contribute to that, but
absolutely.
on the whole, another very well presented document. I assume that will be put on our website here soon.
Yes,
Once we accept it.
as soon as council accepts it, it'll go on the website and then we'll send it off for the budget award.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good work. Our next report this evening is from our Public Services Superintendent. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, Council. I provide you with a 2-week report. It only seems like a week ago, but 2-week report. I do have just a couple updates on my report. Leaves are going fine. The guys are able to get through town in 2 to 3 days. They're coming down pretty strong for us. Hydrant flushing was completed and the winterizing of the hydrants was completed late last week. Our 2020 preventative sewer main cleaning and lift stations were all completed late last week also. That's all I have for updates. Is there any questions on my written report?
I'm not seeing any blue hands. Am I missing anybody waving a hand? I guess not. Nobody's saying anything. So Dan, looks like you're going to get off easy this evening.
All right, thank you. You can catch
Thank you
up
very
with
much.
me
Tell
tomorrow.
everybody thanks and get the snowplows ready.
They're getting ready in between sucking leaves. I do have a question. I do. Have we talked about, and I've missed, when we're thinking about taking the barricades down for all of the restaurants downtown? Have we discussed that? I missed that. Speaking of snow.
I believe that's the end of November. Michelle, help me here.
Yes, the outdoor seating areas that are in the on-street parking run until November 30th. And hopefully we don't have any snow before that.
Yeah, sure.
But all of the businesses that are currently operating those have been made aware, and I will continue to routinely remind them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is our Community Development Manager. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council today?
Okay. Well, good.
How are you, Michelle?
Yay. Hey, 3 out of 7. That's not bad. Okay. So before I go into any verbal updates, do you have any questions on my report? Okie dokie. Mr. Smith, did I see that hand?
Yeah. One of the first things on your report was about the fireworks.
Yes.
Were you going to talk more about that? Or?
Yep, I was going to bring it up.
Okay.
It's a temporary special event. I've spoken with the gentleman twice. If he can provide the information as I've identified it in my memo, and the property owner signs the application as well, then he could be granted a temporary special event permit. Understand also, there are specific rules that he has to follow through the state of Michigan, and any temporary special event permit that might come from my office would certainly require that he follow all local, regional, and state and federal regulations and laws.
Now, I know that typically every year there's usually a sale of fireworks there by Mug and Bob's on Baker Road?
If there has been, it's been done without a permit. Nobody's ever asked for a permit before, so I don't.
Really?
I think it's been a while since that's been up.
I mean, I don't think it happened this year, but other years it seems to be a regular thing.
Okay, I was not aware of it, but Mike and I will keep an eye out for it in case that is something that comes up.
Because I was just curious, whether we want to, limit the number of locations for that. Yeah.
I don't think we're able to per state law.
Yeah.
And that's a question of, how soon do you need to act on this? Or can we wait and see what the pandemic's doing? This may be something that, is drawing people during that time period. And we may want to have some say, whether that actually happens then or not.
So the reason that the gentleman is already contacted is he gets this done early so that he gets his stuff into the state. So that by the time, excuse me, he does this for a number of sites, another number of locations throughout the state. So managing all those at the last minute becomes a hassle, obviously, for him. I don't believe we could use the COVID situation as a reason to hold off or even deny the application, because when it comes to commerce, the different rules and regulations haven't prevented us from creating situations like in our downtown where you want people to be shopping, to be eating, to be dining, etc. I don't think it's something that's going to create a lot of people coming around. Certainly not. It's certainly not going to be like it would be if it was open during the cider mill being open at the same time. So I hope that gives some comfort for you.
Okay, thank you.
So, excuse me, one of the things I wanted to highlight in my report is you may have noticed that that there are some of the text is highlighted in blue, or it's blue instead of black ink. That means that that's linked, it's activated. You can actually click, like on the MedHub, in the items that have not been, that were from last time. The for lease or for sale and lease are highlighted, or they're in blue. You can link to see the actual document that is the marketing brochure for the lease and for the sale. I've been trying to do that so that you don't have a lot of attached paperwork where I can provide that for you. So the other thing, and I'll have a more detailed notation of it, excuse me, I'm so sorry, for my next report is Sheer Bliss, which is on the second floor of the corner building at the corner of Main and Broad, above Artistica. She's actually going to be relocating and expanding to a larger space. It's the Noggin space at 3219 Broad Street, the old Bush's place there. And she's not going to be doing any interior remodeling, just moving into that site. Noggins did not reopen after the lockdown. I've not been able to get a hold of the business owner, but she's going to be taking that space. It will provide her with a lot more foot traffic, and I think it's going to be a really positive move for her business. And that will leave a space above what she's vacating for maybe a small office for someone. And the interesting thing is both that property and the one she's moving to are owned by the same landlord. So And that's it. That's all I've got for updates. Oh, I forgot one more. We're going to have a Christmas tree in Monument Park. Kurt and I have been finalizing or working with different Christmas tree vendors or wholesalers, and we found one local that's the price is great, and it's going to be a beautiful 14-foot tree that we'll pick out, and he'll get it all lit up and it'll be beautiful.
Very good. Very good. Michelle, real
Yes, sir.
quick, just on your report, I know there's no update, but any verbal update or any progress on the Millennium Place and the code issue?
I spoke with Jack. He's mulling over whether he's going to ask the chief for a written explanation and citing of codes as to what the requirements are. Once he makes that decision, whether he is or isn't going to ask, if he does not ask, excuse me, then I will ask, because the Planning Commission has asked me to ask chief for that. I figured if the applicant was going to do it, he could just share that. So, but he hasn't made his mind up yet.
I see. So he's
there is
pending.
no
Okay.
movement. There is no movement.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for the updates. Any other questions for Michelle on her report, verbal or written?
No question, Michelle. I shared this page 114 with the chamber this morning and let them know of a lot of the things that were going on. And they were appreciative of that, so that they could kind of narrow in on a few things that they think they needed to do as well. And anytime you have that, or if you have any other information, if you could just share that with them, that would be something that would be helpful to them as they try to rebuild that organization and get new members. Thank you very much for doing
Absolutely.
this.
Sean, Alex Gilbert has his hand up.
Yep, I see he and Donna. I got
Okay,
it. Alex,
yep.
why don't you go first and then Donna Fisher, please?
Okay. I had a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, floor is yours, Alex.
Okay. I had a quick question about the holiday tree that we're putting up in the park. Is there anything that we could add potentially to incorporate other cultures or celebrations, just so that potentially more people can feel as if they're represented? I'm not sure if there's anything, but I just thought it would be something that could be good to consider.
There could, I don't see why not personally, Alex. If council has no objections, could Kurt and I work with Alex on ways to do that?
Sure.
Yep.
Go for it.
Okay.
I can supply a Festivus pole if you want to go down that road.
Excellent.
Okay,
Nope, good.
Alex, we'll get in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to it.
Nice suggestion. Ms. Fisher.
Yeah, Michelle, how will you will be able to control how many fireworks displays or merchants we would have? Say the guy at Mug and Box came back and then we would have this, that's something that you would look after?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
My only other comment is that when you talk about this blue color, us colorblind people can't see that at all, okay?
It's also underlined, Paul.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw that was underlined. That helped. It
It's
reminds me,
underlined.
and speaking of Christmas trees, it reminds me of the time when Pat was working that I went out with the 3 boys to buy a tree, and we went out and I thought it was a perfect tree, and we came home and it was one of those we chopped down and brought back. And Pat looks at it and says, "Why did you buy a brown tree?" And I said, "It's not brown, it's green." And the boy said, "We tried to tell Dad, but he wouldn't listen." So I hope that, or I'm glad that you didn't ask me to be on the committee to choose the tree at all for the city.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I'm going to move down to our city manager report. Ms. Nichols, are you ready?
I am. So I was just going to give a quick election update since that's kind of the hot topic around the office. A lot of phone calls, people coming in. So we've issued 2,149 ballots. so far. And we've received 1,707 of them back. So we are actually only waiting for about 442 that have not been returned, which is pretty remarkable with still a week to go. I think we took in about 110 today, mostly through the Dropbox. So it's about a 61% turnout if everybody with an absentee ballot returns their ballot. So we are open Saturday from 9 to 5 for anybody that needs absentee voting or registering to vote. And then Monday until 4 p.m. You can do those things. One thing we did want to mention that's getting some press is that if you know of anyone that hasn't returned their ballot and they don't intend to because they want to vote at the polls, it'll really save a lot of time if they surrender that ballot to us at the office ahead of time, because then they won't have to do the paperwork at the polls. We can just take care of that here. It'll help the lines and there won't be any time spent on it there. So if you know of anybody that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the polls, then please have them return their ballots to us. They can also do that at the polls, but like I said, it's just going to be quicker. Watts, Suzanne Flowers put a counter on our new trail. It was on there from the 12th of October to the 23rd of October. So the average was 412 people or crossing of the counter per day. That went up to 729 on the weekends. So it's definitely getting a lot of use. She just kind of did that because they had the counter and she lives in Dexter in Lima Township. So she put it out there. We did get a park use permit from the chamber for their ice sculptures. I don't think it's an issue to have the ice sculptures on display, kind of like the scarecrows have been on display. My only concern was that as part of that request, they did mention their ice sculpture demonstration, and they didn't think that would draw that many people, and they'd spread them out. But I was just thinking that perhaps they're doing virtual events and doing different things. But I was thinking about telling them that we're okay with having the carvings. They are going to spread them out near the downtown businesses who participate. So I don't think it's an issue for us to have the carvings outside, but I was going to kind of steer them away from having any demos, if council's kind of generally agreeable with that.
I guess there was a little discussion of that today, but not very much. So what do you mean by a demo? Those people that are doing it are standing there carving it, and you don't want people around them while they're doing that? Is that what you're?
Right. I mean, anything. So our goal, right, is been to not encourage like uncontrolled crowds. And so I don't know. That would be the only part of it that I would be concerned about, because I think, if they have the sculptures, that's not a big deal, or someone's out there doing it. But I don't know that I'd want them to like invite people to a demo in the park.
Okay. I don't think that happened before. There were a couple. They had two of them previously with the demos, but but people did stand around and watch them carve. And so I guess the question is there in your mind, is there a difference between those two things?
I think the difference would be like inviting people to watch them carve and just happen to have them out there carving and people wander by and see them carving.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I would see the difference.
All right, thank you. Is everybody else okay with that? Because we did have that discussion today, and that those plans need to go forward.
Yeah, I just think we don't want to draw specific attention to any one event or point of focus. But if they're doing a demonstration, somebody stops by and watches, I think that's different.
Okay.
I mean, if they're just carving them, because I don't know where they actually carve them, but if they carve, and they're doing it, that's fine, but not invite people to, to an event for it, I guess would be my point to the chamber.
All right.
And I'm glad they asked, plenty of time to work it out, because the event's not for several months.
Right. I think it's just, 16th or 17th of January, I think is the date.
Yeah.
I don't have.
So I'll give them that guidance that, it's okay if they have them out or have people doing it, just don't, make it an event. And it sounds like they're going to do more, like I said, virtually this year.
It's the 16th of January.
Okay.
January 16th, Paul?
Yeah, it's a Saturday. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see if there's anything else.
Donna, did you have your hand up?
Well, I was just going to make
Oh.
a comment, and then I felt like the conversation was kind of wrapped up, but it seems that a virtual of that demonstration probably
Right.
would work well.
Yeah.
That's all I was just going to make a brief comment.
No, thanks. I can throw that out there.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, so I included kind of an example of a possible tree trimming map so that we could get on sort of a 5-year rotating schedule for trimming. I think that would be helpful to kind of, we're doing that with the sewer system. We do, regular maintenance on a lot of things. And I think that it would make sense so that we're on more of a regular schedule. I mean, the trees do end up impacting garbage pickup and leaf pickup and everything that happens along the side of the road, and keeping kind of a consistent trimming schedule I think would be helpful. I think there's too much more unless oh, we are finishing, well, I guess we can talk about that under L1, so I think I'm good.
Okay. Questions for Courtney?
I have
Paul?
one, the last page, 126. It has the tree canopy cover.
Yeah.
And I see colors here. I think I can identify them fairly well
The
now.
numbers. Yeah.
They're big, okay. But
Mhm.
I don't see a corresponding, maybe I'm missing a corresponding to what the numbers mean.
So this would be what I referenced in my report. So what we were thinking was putting the city on a 5-year cycle of trimming
This
the
is a
trees.
5-year cycle that you have here for
Correct.
the
Yep.
trimming. Okay.
Yeah, and then the DDA would be responsible for 3, which is their district. So we would pick 1 or 2, or decide which
Okay.
zone to start with, and then run it through.
So when you say tree trimming, are you talking only those that are contiguous to the sidewalk?
Yeah,
Or
the
you
street
talking about
trees.
what? Only those contiguous to the sidewalk?
Anything in the right of way.
Anything in the right of way? Okay.
Yeah, I mean the alleys we'd have to think about a little bit, but I mean we could include them as well. Just it just depends on cost.
Okay, and so I'm in number 5.
Yeah.
Do I wait till number 5 to call somebody if I find a tree that's, or can I call somebody at the DPW and say, this one is cracked and it's ready to fall down on
Yeah.
my house, or
Dead
still do
dying
that?
and disease. Yeah, dead dying and disease we would do at any time. This is just preventative maintenance tree trimming, to get it out of the way of trash trucks and leaf machines and those sorts of things.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the health of the tree.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, we would definitely still do, any necessary deadness. We would take those out whenever.
All right. Thank you.
Good plan.
Yeah, thanks for putting that together, Courtney.
Smart.
Any other hands in the air there? Let me just flip through here. I'm not seeing any. Okay, my report is pretty short. I spent the better part of my activities working to try and prepare the new business item L3 for council, so we can talk about that a little bit later down in the agenda. We did have a special DDA meeting that occurred on Thursday morning, and the DDA did pass a resolution authorizing the DDA to accept an assignment of the that DTE substation property. That I only mention that because that action is related to our action, new business item L1. So it was important that the DDA took action so that we were aware of that. That was one of the reasons we held the report, because I wanted to report on that. And then we did have a DAFD meeting also on the evening of the 22nd. There were very few questions on the chief's draft spending plan. And I did send that out to all of you, council, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I think. So you should all have that in your inbox. If you didn't receive it, please give me a call or send me a text or let me know, and I'll find a way to get you another copy or another email on it. The chief continues to do a good job of putting that together, putting that in front of us. And we're accumulating a little fund balance. We're coming in with a surplus each year and able to build up some reserves for some key future things. So it's very good. The budget does include adding the 4th firefighter on shift. We've got that sort of staggered throughout next year in hopes of getting a grant to help pay for that. But once the Webster Station comes online, the intention is to fund that 4th full-time firefighter, which means we'll be hiring next year. So a lot of good things going on there. We did extend the chief's agreement with the DAFD by 2 years. He got a modest raise and an increase in his vehicle allowance. Continues to do a good job for us. So wanted everybody to know that. And then last but not least, we do have a date picked for our next fire union negotiation meeting with the local 4090 firefighters and their representatives. And that is this Thursday. I forget the time, 4:30 or 4 o'clock or something, but it's this Thursday afternoon. So I wanted to let you know that date as well. Please be safe on Halloween if you choose to participate in Halloween. Read the guidelines that the CDC has put out there. Make sure they haven't changed or if they've been updated. Be smart, stay apart, wear a mask. I guess that's fitting for Halloween, but wear a mask. If you're not participating as a person passing out candy, turn your lights off. Don't attract unnecessary attention to your house. And let's just get through this safely if you do participate. So happy Halloween, everyone. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. I'm not seeing any hands or hearing any voices. So we have no council member reports this evening.
Sean, may I ask, not to belabor the point, may I ask a question on that?
Sure, sir.
You voted last time to eliminate the one, having a conversation with Mr. Smith today. He said that wasn't for the future. So when we do a report, is it going to be required that it be written? Can it be oral or can it be a combo? And is the timing of the report that you want to speak or hand it in still at Monday at 5 p.m.?
So
if it's a written one.
there were a number of questions there. So let me try and take them in the order you gave them to me or close. And if I miss one, I'll come back. Okay.
Thanks.
So, you know, I think I want to start off by answering the question that, first of all, if you want to put a council report or if you want to request an item on the packet, those are due at 5 p.m. on the Monday preceding, 1 week prior to the council meeting. That's still not changed. That's the same as it's always been.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I think that that our future council here has to have a discussion about this item because this was something that we added over the last, a couple of years. Okay. And it was, in my understanding, it was intended to be primarily a written report. Okay. Because we do have a council member report section at the end of the agenda, which was the approved agenda that we have. Okay. And when we voted to add this, one of the points that was made at the time was that the council member reports are at the end of the agenda and people may not be around to hear what they have to say. So I don't have any problem under this number 8 council member reports. I don't have any problem if it's written or verbal. Okay. We've had a history here. We don't tell people that they're not allowed to communicate to us. Okay. That's not what we're trying to do here. Okay. But I don't think that we need to have items in the packet that are council rules that are online that are known by everybody, repeated over and over and over. I mean, I think the intention is it's supposed to be something unique, something you want to call attention to that's my own personal feeling, but I think the next council needs to talk about the use of this. I personally am okay if somebody has a verbal report to give. I mean, frankly, they can give it under any number of different places on the agenda. But whether it's written or oral, Paul, I don't have a problem with it. But the intention is that you would submit it by 5 o'clock on the Monday prior. Zach has been good about at least notifying that he's going to submit a report, and then it's usually there on Tuesday morning, the following day. But at least the notice is in by 5. So there's a couple angles of this that I'd like to clarify when the new council sits, whether it's changed by 1 member or 3, I don't know at this point, but I definitely think we're going to need to talk about it so we're all clear on it, because it's not meant to be an item that creates arguments amongst council members. It's meant to be something that can share information in a positive way about the community. We're all representatives of the community. And I think we've gotten ourselves a little off track. So I hope to rectify that with the communication there. A meeting of some type, Paul.
Okay, I'll accept that for now, that's something I would agree to, that we do need to have the discussion. And I guess my only other comment would be is that, some of us think on our feet well and some don't. And so if there's been a comment, and Sean, you always ask the question afterwards, is there any comments or questions about my report? And that would either come then or have to be at the end of the meeting. And, I could ignore the rest of the meeting between point A and point B and start writing my comments, or I could just give it then, whatever I feel that I need to do. But I guess the point is that I agree with you that we'll need to have a discussion. I'm looking forward to having that discussion.
Okay, I think we can work through it. I think communication happens 2 ways, and I think it's important that we each give each other a chance to ask questions when we say something. So I look forward to it as well. So thank you for the question on that, Paul. With that, if we're okay, I'm going to move on to consent agenda this evening. There's quite a big consent agenda, 6 items on the consent agenda. Donna Fisher has her hand up. Donna?
I move we approve the 6 items on the consent agenda, bills and payroll in the amount of $1,081,692.99. To approve the quote from O'Donnell for the work done. Work to be done on the well, not to exceed $10,100. To accept the first quarter budget amendments, to accept the 2021 budget document, to consider the virtual meeting policy and the payment of invoices related to the sewer reconnection on Grand.
Okay, thank you, Donna. That was a long motion, and I appreciate you making it. Motion by Ms. Fisher. I see Mr. Smith has his hand up.
Yes, I'll support the motion.
Okay, second by Mr. Smith. So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Jones, can you call the vote to approve the consent agenda, please?
Yes. Bell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Motion carries on the consent agenda. We are down to item K, which is old business. And we have an item K1, consideration of city office / meeting space, which was postponed from our October meeting of 2020.
Staff provide an overview of the new information.
I'm sorry, Zach, go ahead. Say it again. I didn't hear you clearly.
Staff provide a brief overview of the new information they provided.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, so I guess I'll just kind of go through, I mean, some of this was on last packet and some of it wasn't. So we did get an estimate from partners to put together an internal plan. David thought that'd be about 4 to 5 hours worth of work. Something we wouldn't necessarily need formal council approval on. We also have the information provided from Oxford regarding 3,400 square feet in Dexter Crossing. Dan Cooney has stated that he would allow us to continue to rent the current senior center space starting in January for the same rent we were paying the senior center, which was about $80 a meeting. And then we received 2 calls because people heard that we were looking for office space. One from Matt Schuster, who's the likely future owner of the Encore building that's downtown, who provided an offer for 6,800 square feet. And then also, right before we put the packet out, actually, Jeff Evans provided information on space available at, I believe, what's referred to as the Dexter Commerce Building, which is 8005 and or 8007 Main. I believe one of those spaces was the former Color Book site. They had kept an office in Dexter for a while after they moved out of the Baker Road property. And then I also provided clarification on what a triple net lease means, just because we were throwing that term around and, you know, we don't commonly talk about stuff like that. So I wanted to include what that meant. So that's the update since the last meeting.
Thank you, Courtney. I don't know if I don't see any hands up, so I'm just going to jump in. You know, we have the ability to do virtual meetings through the end of the year, and I assume that we'll be doing those unless council decides otherwise. You know, for obvious good reasons. I'm actually excited about the future potential of the Norfolk option. And I don't quite know, you know, whether this council or the one that's seated here in a couple of weeks will share that excitement or not share that excitement as a general whole. But you know, I'm thinking that we should accept the use of the senior center like we had prior, so that we can at least have a space to meet, one that we know can function and work. And it would give us some time to think about, you know, how to set the room up and spread out and that kind of thing. I think at a minimum, we should take that action to notify them of that interest, you know, assuming there's support to do that. I'd rather do that, or I'd rather not jump on any of the other ones pending an understanding of the Norfolk option, because I don't want to move twice if we don't have to, I guess. If that makes any sense. That's kind of where my head was.
Is that a motion?
Well, I don't get to make motions, Scott. So I just kind of ramble and see what happens. Mr. Smith has his hand up.
I didn't know whether Scott was going to go ahead and make a motion or.
No, it's yours, Jim.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we enter into an agreement with Encore to rent space in the current senior center for our meetings beginning in January 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. Motion by Smith.
I'll second.
Second by Knight. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Council discussion. Zach, I see your hand, I think.
Yep. A couple of concerns with that is I understand why the Encore wants to rent that space to us. It's revenue. But in my talks with folks associated with the senior center, they are scared to death of having us in there for meetings and are likely going to require a deep cleaning after every time we use that building, which is not very cheap or fun or easy to do. So I don't see that as a long-term thing, and it's going to cause stress between the current tenants and us and the property owner. I'd also say that any future at 3045 Broad, if that's what the city intends to go to, although that has not been decided, the land entitlement process from today until lights turned on is likely 2 to 3 years. So we have 2 to 3 years more temporary figuring out. under which time Encore is going to likely get more busy and not be available for that space. And I'd hate to see us try to schlep around to different rooms throughout the community if we get turned away from there. In addition to the challenge for staff, it's difficult to be a good public body when folks don't know we're meeting every time. So I think we ought to get a proper fix that puts things in one place that's safer for staff to work throughout the day. That's it. I don't support this without the blessing of the senior center.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. Donna, I see your hand up, please.
Yeah.
And then Julie,
I think, I don't see Julie's, but she can go first.
No, go ahead, Donna. You're up.
Did you get that direction from the president of the board or from the director about the deep cleaning piece? Or is that just something that people have discussed?
I've been talking with Mr. Carson.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Julie, did you have a comment? I saw your hand at one point.
Yes, I do. Actually, I have a question of clarification. If we contract with the Encore for the senior center, this would strictly be for meetings, not moving the offices there. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
And this would not only be council meetings, but also DDA and planning commission, ZBA.
It would be anything that we do on Monday nights.
Okay.
So we would have to, there are some other things we'd have to work out, but it would at least be for what we do on Monday nights. And the reason behind that is because
they met early Thursday mornings, correct?
Right. No, it doesn't. The main issue we have is meetings where you have to post public notices. And that is ZBA, council, planning commission, everything that we do on Mondays. So we would still have to figure out parks and DDA. And I'm not saying we couldn't use the space, but our goal was, what are we going to do about our Monday meetings? Because those are the ones where we have to publish public hearing notices 30 days in advance, or 10, 15 days in advance.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're hoping that even if council has to meet in person, that doesn't mean that we still can't have the virtual option for people. So if something like DDA does get moved around, it's not as big of a deal because people could still join virtually and they don't have public hearings. So, I mean, we're hoping that even with the in-person, even with council, we would continue to have a virtual option. We've purchased equipment to that end.
Okay. Thank you.
So, go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, all right. I was just gonna respond, a little bit to Zach. I think that Zach, you're right in your thinking that we have, probably 2 to 3 years. Given there's a site plan process and a design process and an approval process and construction and all that stuff before any building might even be ready. If we were talking about the Norfolk thing, I think my thoughts there are just to allow the new council to sit and figure that out as we approach the potential letter of intent discussion. Whether it's in December, we get an update from Norfolk or January. I guess that was my thought there. I didn't mean to completely cut those off, but I was just stating my preference for the other one. But if obviously if the Norfolk thing doesn't turn, I would agree we have to find a better option for the our staff. We can't stay above the bank. Paul, I'm done. Sorry. Thank you.
No, don't feel sorry. You spoke first. I was up there today for an event. There were only 4 people allowed in the room. That's a great big room.
Are you talking about the senior center, Paul?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Senior center, sorry.
That's
I was
fine.
up there. There's only 4 people allowed in that space. There were some other chairs, but for this event, it was only for 4 people. There were 3 that were there, plus the presenter. You were tested asked the questions and tested before you go in with, with the thermometer. They, you had to hand sanitize. You walked in, you sat down, you went through your event, and you came in one way and went out another. You went out the side door. I haven't had any discussions with Mr. Carson about it. Or Mrs. Fisher or anybody, but I would be pretty shocked if they had let this to happen. And you got to realize that the word is senior. All those people that are there are in that vulnerable category that use that at all. Okay.
Are they even using it though?
Yeah, they were used, well, for these events they are, I can tell you that.
Well, the thing is they don't have, I mean, the reason we went to Encore is because after January 1st, the senior center doesn't have any say over what goes on in the building. So that's between Encore and the senior center, in my opinion, because the city is working directly with Encore, the landlord, the owner of the building. And so I think if the senior center has an issue, then they need to take that up with Dan, but the city has to work with the person who has the power to rent the space, which is Encore.
I understand it, but that's what my point is. I don't understand why they would even allow it. Okay. The senior center would allow that to happen if Zach is correct about the deep cleaning needed every time. Okay, somebody's going to have to pay for that. But they were very cautious today, just for us going in there, the 3 people and the presenter. Okay, and Wendy was there, and the lady that does the food was there. There was a total of 6 people in the building total.
Mm-hmm.
And so. And what you had to do to get in there, I don't know. So I guess the question would be, does the Encore or the senior center, when their agreement after the first, are they going to make anybody that goes in there go through those same steps?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you set apart?
Well, and we haven't even talked about what kind of steps we would want to take as a council.
I know that's
at all. So I mean, that's probably a good topic for organizational matters. We'll be organizing, a return to in-person meetings and what the protocol is going to be for people to be in person at those meetings. We haven't even gone there yet.
I don't disagree with that. And I guess my point is if that's it, that only solves one of the problems we have temporarily. To me, it doesn't solve the problem of the office space.
Right. And I don't think the Encore downtown location is a bad option. Honestly, it solves both. It could be 2 years. It could be something temporary. It just depends on if council's going to want to, have the cost of the rent and whatever build out would be to do that.
Correct. And I think that you ought to look with the new council at all those options.
We'll postpone until the first meeting when the new council's seated.
Move to postpone by Zach. Is there a second for that?
That's the second meeting in November.
I'm not hearing a second for the postponement.
I second, excuse me.
Oh, okay. I heard, all I heard was you, Courtney. I didn't hear Paul. Okay, second by Cousins. Thank you. Any discussion?
So when you said the second meeting is, does that mean that the present council is meeting on the 9th?
Yes. The charter is the second meeting, says the second meeting in November.
The what?
The charter says the second meeting in November is when they take.
Thank you.
That's consistent with being a village.
Okay, seeing no further discussion. Am I missing anybody on discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to postpone this item to November 23rd.
Yes. Smith,
No.
Bell,
No.
Cousins,
Yes.
Fisher,
No.
Knight,
Yes.
Shells,
Yes.
Something happened to Carol?
I didn't hear Sean.
Oh, I
He
didn't
didn't
hear
say
my
his
name
name.
called. I didn't hear my
Yeah,
name
I
called,
did-
Carol.
Yeah, Keo.
I vote no. No, I'd like to act on this and get a place and set up. So no, I don't want to postpone it. So we're back to the original motion. And again, I stand by what I said. I think that the council can take up whether to do further temporary stuff later, but I think we should secure our spot and start talking about the protocols and things like that. So the other thing is, no matter where we have a meeting, there's going to be some level of cleaning that is going to be occurring here in the near future. So I don't see those costs going away, whether they're ours or the building owners, but anyway, so the original motion, Carol, was made by Smith, I believe,
Yes,
with a second by
and
Knight.
seconded by Knight. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
Is there further
agenda?
discussion on that? Michelle's?
Yep. Do we know if that facility has the infrastructure to support the online meeting option, either for members of council or members of the public?
Yeah, so we purchased cameras and microphones and things to make that option work, regardless of where we go.
And we know that the connection in that part of the building will support it?
We have a jetpack we can use with Verizon that has unlimited access for up to like 12 users. So we can provide if necessary.
What's the term of the contract we're signing with Encore? Is it month by month? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? How long are we committing here? So we can have some.
It's just per meeting, right?
We didn't get to a term because we haven't, seen a copy of an agreement or anything. It was just on here. So if we want to do it, we can ask Dan about month to month or 6 months, or I don't know, whatever council wants.
We should probably have an idea of that before we jump into the pool. If you don't know how deep it is, that's when you break your neck.
Well, I think it could be reasonable to have the motion be to approve a month to month and let staff go back and talk to Dan about it.
Can you remind us how Jim phrased his original motion?
Jim, can you remind us how you phrased your original motion?
It was just to enter into an agreement. Is unspecified as far as the length. Because, we haven't had the discussion yet, so.
So we could modify that so that staff talks to Dan and brings back brings back options. Is that acceptable to Jim and Julie?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that lets the motion now is basically to authorize staff to go back to Dan and say we're interested and bring back options as to whether it's month to month or whether it would be for a specific term. And we'll see it again on the 9th.
Sounds good.
Sort of a step A and then a step B. Okay, any further comment on this item? K1?
Just clarify that we're not entering into agreement. We're just telling staff to get more information.
Correct. Essentially to bring back, options for agreements. That makes sense, Zach?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Okay, Ms. Jones, why don't you call the vote, please?
Okay. Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Sure.
Bell,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, motion carries 7-0, I believe. Thank you. At least we have some direction and we'll see that item back next meeting, hopefully. Where are we here? We're down to new business, I believe. Item L1, correct?
I'll make
New
the
business item- Go ahead, Paul.
I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution, page 178, 179 for the DTE in the city to property on Danway Road with the various items, numbers in there. So, yeah.
Okay.
Second,
Motion by Cousins, second by Michelle's, was it?
yep.
Okay. Discussion, or Courtney, you want to walk us through this a little bit?
We've been working on finishing the closing with DTE, which we're hoping occurs this Friday. And this is just an assignment of the purchase agreement so that the DDA can enter into the closing documents, which we felt made sense because they're paying us back for the property. They own the Tupper parcel. So this will just all be in the name of the DDA. And it just clarifies who can sign on behalf of the city for the Dan Hoy property sale. Usually the title company likes to see that, so.
Okay, so again, we have a motion by Cousins, second by Michelle's to pass the resolution on page 178, 179, or 170, yeah, 178, 179. Other questions by council? This has been a long time coming to this part. To get
Courtney
this
can't leave.
property.
Courtney
Sorry,
can't
Paul.
leave until it's done, okay? So,
Right. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
she's-
glad that it's Scott shuffling over there. Scott's trying to drag it out as long as he can, I think.
Yeah.
To make
Yeah,
you stay
that-
longer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, next time, don't let them look at any legal descriptions. Just ask them if we could use a warranty deed on
Right.
day one, will you?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm being joking around a little bit, but this, we signed this agreement with DTE back in 2017 or 18 or wherever it was, and
that was after years of.
And that was after, years of going over the agreement. So
Right.
it's been a long time coming to get to this, and it's quite transformational. So kudos to everybody involved. Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Yes. Bell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
oh, yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. New business item L2 is a consideration of a resolution to establish social districts. Scott, I see you have your hand up.
And I'll make the motion that we adopt the resolution to establish a social district. The resolution is on page 185, 186 of our packet.
Second, Michelle's.
Motion by Bell, second by Michelle's. Okay, thank you both. Discussion. Or Michelle, if you want to start us off, that's very fine as well.
So you've seen this multiple times now and have had a lot of time to digest it. So instead of me going through it bit by bit, does anybody have any questions that I could answer or clarify, any comments or concerns that you may have? I see Julie's hand.
Julie, go ahead. Yep, get into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the question I have is how is this going to impact the Dairy Queen? I mean, is there going to be people walking back and forth with a drink in their hand in front of the Dairy Queen, or there's tons of kids lined up to get a Dairy Queen, or?
So the, excuse me, Dairy Queen will be closing, if I'm not mistaken, very shortly. So by the time, if council were to adopt the resolution today establishing the district, there are still, as I've identified in my memo, a number of steps we're going to have to take before we can even apply to the Liquor Control Commission for our permit. By that time, Dairy Queen will be closed. You have the ability to determine when this social district operates and when it doesn't, not just the hours of operation itself, but actually when you're going to have the common areas be active, and that can be seasonal. The primary driver of this is the fact that there's not a lot of places for people during the winter time. We're navigating how outdoor seating will be used this year. This gives a little bit extra for the businesses. So Dairy Queen, the short answer is Dairy Queen won't be impacted at all.
Because they'll be closed.
Because they'll be closed.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Yep.
Jim Smith, I see your hands up.
Yes, I still have some concerns about this whole proposal. My preference, I know typically the outdoor seating that we have previously approved for some of the establishments typically goes away in the winter. I would prefer that we just work on something to extend that and let each individual business utilize the sidewalk area that they've been using, and work with those areas rather than establishing new separate areas or trying to connect the various areas. I'd rather see them have their own individual area that they're responsible for.
So, Mr. Smith, the outdoor seating can be year-round. Our zoning ordinance does not limit it. We have in the past had the furniture moved during the winter months to accommodate snow removal. Right. And there hasn't been the urgency or the need for outdoor seating in the winter. The COVID emergency has changed that. So what I have told the businesses, and I believe I identified it here as well as in previous presentations to the council, they can continue their outdoor seating, those that have been approved for it. So Dexter's Pub, the Beer Grotto, Aubrey's, the Fillmore, Hotel Hickman, Erratic Ales, they can all continue theirs. The Fillmore and Hotel Hickman don't use public sidewalk, but all the others do. And they can continue to do that. The difficulty for those using a public sidewalk is it's still a small, limited space. Having the social district with that expanded common areas gives everyone just a little bit more room and possibly just a little bit more business.
Yeah. I still have the preference for the existing areas.
I understand.
Thank you.
Michelle, help me understand again how we're making sure we stay within whatever the stage minimums are, a certain number of people and all that.
This doesn't fall under that. We have to identify, like in the commons areas, we could put circles for 6-foot distances. Yeah. But as you know, if you're with a group of people that go to a restaurant, you could have 6 people around a table. Those 6 people don't necessarily have to be 6-foot distance, but table to table does have to be. Excuse me. So we would set up circles, if you will, if we're going to have any type of street furniture out there. It's still to be determined if there's going to be street furniture, who's providing it, or do you allow people to bring their own, a portable chair? But you would still, regardless of which way it was decided that it be done, you're still going to identify your circles for your 6-foot areas, so that people you don't have, so that you don't have that whole area wall to wall, people packed in like sardines.
Okay, that's the part of this that I'm trying to get my head around, if you will, and pardon me for the questions, because everything we've done since March has been to limit attraction of groups, and yet this in the resolution, even says would be an immediate draw.
Right, but
And
everything you've
I'm a little
done.
excuse me, I'm a little concerned
sorry.
about that without understanding how the setup is going to limit that.
So everything you've done with the on-street parking, the relaxation of people using the sidewalks in the downtown has been to impact that immediate draw, to make it easier for people to come in and enjoy the downtown as it benefits the businesses. This operates under that same premise. We don't, like I said, we don't have the maintenance plan worked out yet, or the management plan where those details would come into place. And so understand that if you, by adopting this resolution, nothing changes right this minute. We still have those steps to go through. If going through those steps, it became uncomfortable for council or didn't seem like it was going to be a benefit after all, you don't have to finish the process. You don't have to make the application to the Liquor Control Commission. This is just the first in a multiple step process.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I just think it's important to talk about that because I don't think our mind frame has changed, and the difference being at those areas in the street where we created areas for the businesses, people are actually being seated and they're led somewhere, and there's an accepted norm that's being overseen, if you will. And this is a little less regulated, if you will, from my perception of how they're going to interact, or at least that's my concern, I guess. So I just wanted to voice it, is all.
Your comments are right on point. And it is, we've made the Jell-O and now we have to come up with the mold to contain the Jell-O.
Yep.
So it is a little bit of a leap of faith, but like I said, the check and balance in this, and I think I'm probably mixing my metaphors, but the check and balance in this is you don't have to pull the trigger to submit the application to the Liquor Control Commission till all of the other steps are done. And if you're not comfortable through the process, you don't have to pull the trigger at the end.
Got it. Okay, I just have one other comment, and then I'll recognize Councilmember Bell. Maybe this is my grammar, and in the second whereas, should common areas be commons areas?
No, we have one common area.
Okay, but isn't it called commons with an S?
The second whereas, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second whereas says
commons area. Yes, it should have an S.
Okay, all right. Just catch that on the final version. That's minor. Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Bell?
Thank you. I just wanted to make the point that, well, 2 points. First is that if we didn't get snow here, we wouldn't really be having this discussion. We just keep doing what we're doing, and I think it would be a tremendous benefit to the businesses. But we do get snow, and as Dan mentioned earlier, we have to take preventive measures to allow plowing to occur, and so the current situation can't continue during cold weather. So this is really the only substantive thing that we can do to help those businesses to give them a little bit extra helping hand. And I really think we should do it. Second point is that, as Michelle pointed out, this doesn't obligate us to follow through the process, but it is a necessary first step. And there is a timeline here. The weather's getting colder, and the current allowance for using on-street parking terminates at the end of November. And so if we don't act on this tonight in a positive manner, we set the clock back at least 2 weeks. And that could present a gap on the calendar during which those businesses don't have the benefit of outdoor seating and outdoor serving. And they really are looking for that. I think a lot of them are just getting by as it is. So that's why I favor this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Zach, is that your hand?
Yep.
I'm getting better at spotting it, Val.
A question for about the districts. How tricky would it be to make the commons area larger if it turns out wildly popular and we need to have more space so people are spread out adequately? Do you have any idea?
So what we would need to do is to the only place to really do it is an expansion of that current area. And we'd have to find a place for those relocated handicap parking spaces.
All right.
Which I know we can find, but that would be what we would do. We'd have to ask I'm presuming you're asking this as an after the fact. You've gone through everything, you've applied to the Liquor Control Commission, you've got your permit, and you're finding that it's wildly successful and we need to expand that. We'd have to present a request to amend the commons area to the Liquor Control Commission.
All right. And so the next steps for staff, if this is adopted tonight, is to work on the management plan which would be included in the application. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's going to involve also working with the DDA?
Yes.
And you think you'll have that for the next meeting?
For the next meeting of the DDA is the third meeting in November. Excuse me.
The 19th.
The 19th. And so I'd come back to council at your second meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Unless there's a way to do a quicker special DDA meeting to go over it. I have no objections to that if I can get the DDA to do that.
If not, perhaps the first draft comes to council at our first meeting and then it gets skipped to the DDA.
That's an option too, Zach.
All right, I'm good, thanks.
You're welcome. Did I miss a hand or a hand in the window anywhere? Okay, so Ms. Jones, remind me, we have a motion by Bell, second by
Michelle's.
Michelle.
Okay, that's what I thought I had. Okay, good, thank you. To approve the resolution on page 185 and 6, was it?
Yes.
Okay, please call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Michelle, thank you for your work on that.
Thank you all.
Let's see, new business item L3 is a consideration of interim city manager and next steps in the city manager search. I don't know if somebody wants to make a motion or if you'd like me to go through what I did or how I did it or where I'm at with my thought process in trying to put this in front of everyone.
We have a few hands, Sean.
Oh, hold on, I lost my, got it. Mr. Smith?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve combine the suggested motions on page 189 a combined approval for the three motions there?
All of them as written there?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bell, I see your hand is up.
I'll support Mr. Smith's motion.
Okay, thank you for that. Zach, your hand was waving, I think, at one point in time, right?
Yeah, it was. Concerning the interim, I just wanted to ensure that we are hitting a quieter time of year. I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be leaving things behind or forcing staff to work ridiculous amount of hours to cover those 2 or 3 positions, depending on how you do the math.
I'll let Justin and Courtney chime in here, but I believe that they are thinking about or have talked about some interim staff or a graduate assistant or something, even if we don't take these actions here tonight, to help bring somebody on to help. Is that not correct?
Yeah, so we had in the budget, like a management intern, which we normally get somebody in like public administration school that needs credits. Even if they don't, they just want experience. And we've had some good luck with that. So they would be able to help with some of the, with some of the tasks, but we've laid out a lot of what needs to get done. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of extending it a really long time because I don't want the office to be without a whole person, but I think the way that it's laid out is feasible, unless Justin disagrees.
How long until it becomes painful?
I would say construction for sure. Like, so April, May, well, a little bit before that, absolutely not through by the end of winter. It really needs to be done, my personal opinion, because that's when it gets. I mean, we're lucky right now that we don't have projects going over the winter. We're finishing some things up, like the closing on DTE and trying to get these ordinances done, some of that stuff. So, but I would say absolutely by, construction season, when we start doing crack sealing and sidewalk projects and 3rd Street and.
And I would agree with that. And one of the things that's taking up really the most amount of time for both Courtney and I right now is the election.
Right.
And that's going to be over here in a week and a half or so.
Right. And the Parks and Rec master plan, Justin's been working on that. That's in good shape. So we're in pretty good shape with some of our longer term projects.
Right. My next comment is on the number 3, with us conducting the search in-house. I really believe that the manager position is the most important position that council is involved in. And we've been fortunate to have good people in there, but I believe we ought to get professionals who do these types of recruitments and review process to aid us in the process. So if it's all 3 of them, I can't support it. I'm going to wait for discussion and then change and make a motion to amend that. I want Mr. Breyer to know that if I vote no, it's not because of him. It's just because that's my philosophy, is I want to get the best people in the room to help us. And I believe MML has that experience. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Paul here. I agree
go
with
ahead.
I agree with Zach, and I was wondering if in the process here that we're going to have an opportunity for exit interviews, and should that be in a motion?
I have no problem with doing an exit interview. How would you like to do that interview, Paul? Or how are you suggesting that interview be done?
Well, we've done it before with, I think, with Allison. I can't remember Donna. It's been a long time ago.
Donna specifically said she would not participate in it.
That's right. I remember that. But Allison did, right?
I don't know.
No, I don't believe Allison did one either.
All right. Well, I still think it's important we do that, and maybe Courtney does not want to do it either. But that's we'll hear that from her when she says yes or no here, because I'll make the motion if we do. But if she doesn't want to do it, then I'm not going to waste my breath.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it. I don't know the format. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm looking for a hot light of 7 people in a public meeting, but
No, I don't. That
you
wasn't
guys
on my
think of a
intent.
way that's not that, then I'll
No.
consider it.
I was considering it a one-on-one basis for those that want to do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't do it.
Okay. That's up to you guys then, but I'm fine with whatever.
Well, hearing that Courtney had no problem with it, would like to make then, just in addition to that, when we finally decide what we're gonna do with 3 here, just a opportunity for an exit interview by individual council members if they feel they'd like to. Not making anybody do it if they don't want to.
Well, Paul, I mean, if that's what you're suggesting, you know, I think that's sort of up to Courtney to decide whether she wants to have a conversation with any one of us if it's done individually. I mean, you could call her and talk to her anytime.
Okay.
I
just
think, I mean, I don't
in
know
many-
that.
In many cases, this is done in a more formal process. Okay, that's why I'm just.
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
ya.
I think it might be a little tough to do, 7 of them, but I mean, maybe if there were like 3 of you that wanted to do it, or, something under or like 2 or 3 people were interested in sitting down, that's fine as an option, but.
We could take an informal vote right now of those that would like to do it or don't want to do it. They don't want to participate. We'd find out some number here by doing it. I mean, Sean, you see her every day, so you can tell us what you're going to do or not do.
I don't see her every day. I talk to her most every day, but I don't see her every day.
Well, talk then, talk, see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few outgoing questions for her. But I don't know that I'm looking to schedule a formal meeting, with council or a closed session meeting or anything like that.
That was not my intent at all.
I know, I hear you. I'm just answering your question. I'd be happy to participate if somebody wanted to, or in that meeting. I mean, Courtney's never been shy about answering my questions, and, I'm sure if I asked her a question, she'd answer it honestly.
That's all I would ask.
Mr. Smith, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I think a exit interview is a separate item. I don't see that as part of the steps moving forward with this process.
Okay, Mr. Bell, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Jim made that point because I was about to make it. I think it's separate to this. If someone wants to make a motion along the lines of an exit interview in some fashion afterwards or separately, it's fine. But I don't think I support adding it to this motion.
I can live with that, Scott. Okay, thank you for your comment. I'll make it afterwards then.
Okay. Okay, for any further discussion on the motion by Smith, second by Bells, on the 3 motions on page 189? Zach, go ahead, please.
I move to amend the motion to remove item number 3, the in-house process.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll
Okay.
second it. I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, second by Cousins. Okay, discussion?
Yep. I guess I'll go.
Go ahead, Zach, you can start us off.
Is as I stated before, the city manager is the most important position, and because they pick the people who go on all the other spots, and the MML has folks who do this all the time. It's what they do. They recruit people. They know the questions to ask. They work with staff if we pick something that's not basic. It's like if you're trying to build a house, don't try to design it yourself. Don't have the builder design it. Get an architect to do it because they know all the tricks and how to design things so you don't have a wall that's 33 feet long instead of 32 feet. I think that's important. I think it's also good that we don't put extra stress on staff having to manage this and manage the interviewees and that end of it. So I think it would be in our benefit, in the city's benefit in the long term if we instead do that with the MML.
Okay.
Since I say,
Scott,
go ahead.
Scott, your hand's up, I see.
Thank you. 2 points again. The first is that I don't think the motion as written precludes the future possibility of engaging the MML. I don't see it prohibited by this. So if down the road, the council decides that sufficient progress isn't being made or resources are being strained unnecessarily, they can always act to engage the MML. Secondly, actually 3 points, sorry. Second point is there is a cost, as Sean points out here. I think it was 15 to 20,000, something like that, to get their involvement. It seems like a lot of money for something that's never been needed before. And thirdly, I don't know that a professional organization like MML is necessarily the best, has the best people for hiring someone for the city of Dexter. In my business, in my work over the last 30 years, I've personally hired probably, I don't know, 20, 30 engineers and scientists. And I never had any formal training in that. It was just kind of common sense, knowing what the job required and taking the time to figure out the right questions to ask and what to listen for in the interview. And so I don't necessarily agree with Zach's comment that you need a professional organization to help you hire someone to fill this position. Thank you.
Well, I was a seconder. I'll like to speak. So I guess Scott, to ask Scott a question first. Did you make the final decision or did you make that recommendation to a group after you made your decision?
All my hiring recommendations had to be approved by our chief operating officer.
So it was one person that you had to convince then, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. In this case here, I guess my comment is it's a little bit different here in that we do have 7 people instead of this the one. I don't know if they're apples to apples, but I mean, they may be. I don't know. I'm not going to make a judgment on that. I'll give you a situation that happened with the Huron River Watershed Council when we just had Rebecca Lesselman, who, by the way, is a citizen of the city here. We did go outside and we did a search. It was a U.S. search, mostly the Midwest area. We hired somebody from Chicago to help that process. It was not cheap. When it came down to it, though, that person that came to the top was the person that actually was an in-house person, Rebecca. And for lots of reasons, besides just being familiar with the system. And so when we got done with it, I happened to be on the committee, when we got done with it, we recommended, and we had lots of comments that they thought that was a very excellent process and that we did go outside. We had cast a wide net. And yet when it came down to it, we found that the person that was for the right job was right here and they recommended it. And we submitted that to the board and they approved it. So I think that that just doing it on your own has some problems. And I'm not sure Donald will agree with me, but I've been through that process too many times in the late 90s and the early 2000s in this city to just kind of find a person that's made an application and you think it's the best person. We didn't have any help at all, and we ended up with some disasters. I just think it's a good process, and we got to put on our big boy pants because we are now a city. We're not a community of 1,700 people, and it's time we do it the right way.
Well, I don't think we should let anybody coin one way, right or wrong at this point. I think there's a lot of good people around the table here. I think there's a lot of good intentions in the room. My recommendation is to help get the process started and see the type of applicants that are out there. You know, as I've said on the other items, there's likely going to be at least a slight change in council by the second meeting in November. And, you know, there's a month after that of allowing that council to have some interaction and some further discussion. But in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with having applications come in. With Justin as the interim, I felt it was important to go to Marie as the senior office person there. She can accept all applications. That can keep that process separate a little bit from Justin, if you will, in case, you know, he's by any chance interested in the permanent position. I, like Scott, have quite a bit of experience in hiring. I think with, you know, the assistance at the interview table of some of our senior staff and a couple other council members, you know, to be determined. I think that can happen quite well. I think we can create a process where council can get a chance to meet these folks. But I personally would like to see all the applications that come in. And that was not the process that's described by MML. They do a lot of sifting, and I suppose there's a reason they do it, but it's based on what we tell them. But you know, I looked at a sample of a packet or brochure that they put together for another community, East Grand Rapids, I think it was. And, you know, frankly, we could write the same thing about our community without paying that money to do it. It's very, it was, I mean, it's 11 pages of a lot of stuff, but it's not stuff that we couldn't come up with if we wanted to go a similar route. Anyway, I have a lot of confidence in this council and to find the right person, as well as with the assistance of our staff. And I guess I'm asking for your support to go at it without MML at this point in time. So, Donna, you had your hand up.
Yes, I support Scott's comment about we can always turn to them if we need that. They're always there if we just want to engage them. So I'm in favor of getting going and getting the office covered. There's a lot to be done. And I have a lot of faith in Justin.
Oh, Zach, I see your hand again, sir.
Yep. So I am aware that it does cost money. It's an investment though. It's not worth throwing it out and we don't get anything for it. We get professionals. I do know some folks who work at MML just doing this through previous jobs I had, who served as city managers, including one who served as a city manager of Mount Pleasant. So these aren't just yahoos who have public policy degrees. They know the job that we're looking to do. They know the pressures. They know how to interact with council. They know it better than any of us do. I do believe there is a risk to advertising it ourselves and then coming back with MML. So I follow and work in the public realm. I've followed job postings, and I guarantee you that whenever a city posts jobs multiple times, everyone's red lights come up and they don't want to touch it because there's something going on there. If you see that job posted and then reposted within a couple weeks, within a couple months, just don't touch it with as big a stick you can, because it's a mess. And I believe that's a potential risk we run into. Additionally, I have concerns not knowing what process we're going to follow. A lot of folks who may be interested in city management positions want discretion in the process. That means there's going to have to be some filtering from whatever is applied to what we get as a council, which is the same as the process there. However, that's done outside of our view, so it's a little bit cleaner. And I think not having that buffer would make some folks who may be interested not want to apply for it because of lack of anonymity and potential retribution from their employers, such as we saw happen to the fellow who was the manager of City of Ann Arbor. They didn't like that he applied for jobs and they threw him out. So I can't support doing it in-house now with that little paragraph that we've got there. It provides no process, and if we muck it up, it's gonna get harder to come back around and fix it. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Hands, Donna, did your hand go up? Nope.
No, no.
Okay, that was just in the picture. Sorry, I was scanning through the pictures.
Paul, one last time, I agree with Zach. You know, this is a big decision, and we're not a small community anymore. We're not a village. We are a city with lots of activities going on. And when it comes to the anonymity, that was one of the things that was very important for the hiring of Rebecca, that the other people that were very, very concerned about. They didn't want their name out there that they were applying for a job. And I don't know how you're going to control that. But MML can, and they did, and that's what they do, and that's what happened in the process with hiring Rebecca there at the Watershed Council. There were 4 people, I believe, were the final ones, and 3 of them, as I remember, did not want their names being bannered about because they didn't want to risk the present job that they had. And you know, we all think we can do it. We're all not skilled to do it. And we all think we can be good interviewers and sift through it. But I can tell you, being through this process before with multiple people, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. And we got to be careful about this. And we got to be professional about it. And we got to be bold about it to be able to do it the right way.
Okay, other discussion on the, I believe Zach, was your amendment, right? To remove number 3?
Correct.
So it was a motion by Michelle, second by Cousins to amend the original motion to remove suggested motion number 3. Ms. Jones, can you call the vote on the proposed amendment to the motion?
Yes. Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
No.
Val,
No.
Fisher,
No.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
No.
Keo.
No. Okay, so that brings us back to the original motion by Smith, second by Bells, to approve the 3 suggested motions as written in the packet.
So are folks comfortable with number 3 without any process attached to it? Basically says we're going to post something and then Marie gets applications, and that's what we're running with to hire the most important position in the city. Are folks really
Zach, I
comfortable?
will bring back some suggested process. But it doesn't preclude the other 3 things from going forward. And the future council can discuss how they want to handle that.
I would propose we at least wait to post it until we know what that process is. That we can ensure anonymity for applicants. At the very least, who's going to review them first? How are we going to interview? Are we going to get it up? It's very, very loosey-goosey. Well, I'm just not comfortable with. I'm wondering if other folks are comfortable with how loose that is.
I'm not seeing any further comments, Zach. I will work with existing staff and MML a little bit maybe, and I'll do some reading and I'll bring back a proposed process for the next meeting, a draft of it anyway, so that council can then comment on it. But I don't think there's any harm in applying. I mean, Marie's not going to disclose any names that come in, so I don't think there's any harm in that.
I was just unmuted, so I can address that. What we've done in the past is all resumes are kept confidential except amongst whatever the hiring committee is. And then usually nothing is, I mean, this isn't in front of council, so it's gonna have to be a little bit different, but usually nothing becomes remotely public until you're checking references. So you've already made your decision by then, or.
Yeah,
pretty
you're
close
down
to
the
it.
road.
Yeah, you're pretty close to it. And we have had applicants in the past that have requested anonymity for, you know, like assistant manager jobs.
Well, and I think even if there's like a final interview that's public with like the top several candidates, I mean, that's kind of expected that that's a possibility. You just have to tell them.
Yep, understood.
Are we gonna have a public meeting with the top couple of applicants, and who's gonna run that?
Do we really need that decision made today, Zach? I mean, you don't even have that decision if you go through the MML process. Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Michelle,
No.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
No.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you for the support on that. Council comments, starting with Mr. Michelle's, please.
No.
Nothing. Mr. Smith,
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Cousins,
Let me pass for a second. I had something written down. I gotta find it.
no, there's no passing.
I just gotta find what I need to.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. I'll come back to you. Mr. Gilbert,
None, thank you.
is Bella on with us? I haven't. She's way down
thought
there
she
with her
was.
Peter Pan.
I let her in the waiting room a few minutes ago, but
Yes. Her mic's.
Isabella, are you there?
Yeah, she's still muted.
Gotcha.
There she goes.
She
Now
wasn't
she's on.
muted.
But I don't.
Okay, Ms. Knight,
I just want to wish everyone a happy and safe Halloween. Be cautious, please.
thank you. You too. Mr. Cousins?
I'll pass. I had something written down, but I can't find it, so I'll just pass. Not waste anybody's time.
Okay, Mr. Bell, I think I still have you to call.
No, I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
And then Ms. Fisher.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Okay, we're down to non-arranged participation. Mr. McCarter, please.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Three things, kind of quick. First off, want to offer a huge compliment to Justin for the way that he has handled the election process up to this point. I have called with a number of questions. I know that there have been a number of other people who have. It's a complex process, and he's had the answers just like that. And more, in addition to that, I think he is exhibiting a tenor of calmness with respect to the process and success at a time when there's an awful lot of conversation of what can go wrong. He is demonstrating, I think, how public staff and officials can make things go right. Second things, Sean, I think you mentioned in one of the conversations something about good intentions. And I want to bring that back to two things. One is the conversation that was just going on, and I think something similar that was going on earlier with regards to the exit interview. As a teacher in the district, one of the things that I really regretted was that there was no formal process for an exit interview out of the school system. And after a large number of years, it was a craft. I mean, you bring skills to your job, you also develop a craft over your time in it. And to have that institutional knowledge vaporized, to me, is a serious mistake for any organization. So what I would recommend is just to offer to Courtney, if you would think about the things that you have learned, the tricks, the skills, the gold nuggets of the work that you have done in 13 years that would be lost and are not necessarily going to be caught because somebody's going to feel free to call you later on. That exit interview doesn't have to be everybody. And I'm thinking much more of what you can provide to the city rather than the other way. Although with any kind of evaluation, I think a two-way process makes an awful lot of sense. The third thing has to do with this conversation about hiring Courtney's replacement. To me, the conversation as I listened to it was a conversation about process skills. It wasn't a question about substantive decision-making, like, are we going to do the firehouse here or there? Or what are we going to do about this specific resolution? This is more, do we have a process in place which is going to allow us to fill what I'm hearing is kind of a strategic need. It's a strategic level need for the city to have somebody in this position. So as I think about that with my experience, I'm thinking consistency with the strategic plan. What are the elements of the role? How do you go about bringing the process skills of this body to bear to help solve this problem of hiring her replacement? Now, ideally, I think you would, in your planning process, recognize we need to have a process in place to be able to do this in the future. We're going to have to do it now, but we need to do it in the future. And I heard you guys, you folks brainstorming the elements of what some of that process would look like now that we're a city, given the reality of where we are. So I personally agree that at this point in the process, you don't know what your process is. And the focus of what are the elements of that are most necessary right now as we try to replace Courtney, that to me is the priority. I'm going to bring that back and just close out the comment because, Sean, I'm not keeping track of time on this one at all. This is I believe, the last meeting before the election. There have been several references to the turnover that's going to take place when there is a new council. And I want to highlight that process skill thing again. There was that wonderful little starfish thing that, Paul, that you offered because you're a biology teacher. I'm going to offer something from my teaching time, which is I used to say my Wayback Machine is busted and my crystal ball is also busted. So, I have to deal with the situation in the minute. I don't want to live in the past. I want to learn from the past. And I'm thinking about the fire hall and the election and what's going to happen next. I have noticed that we have had several of the candidates on the call. Some are still on the call. And obviously, there are a number of you who are still going to be here after the election is over. To me, the fire hall is a substance decision, a hugely important one. I've been in this town almost 3 decades now. So, I got a lot of the history of that one going back too. But it's an important substantive issue. And I see you folks stuck in process on that one because you have different views of what the substantive solution should be. And at the moment, it seems like that's really dominant. It's an issue in the election. It's an issue for thinking about what's going to happen in the next year or two. It's hugely important. It's strategically important for the city. What I'm seeing missing is, in a bigger sense, the process skills of coming to some resolution with the people who are on this council, with the substantive positions that they've got, and the reality, the best thing for the city is going to involve compromise. And how do you get there? And how do you get there in this case quickly? Because yeah, it has been around a long time. So for the candidates who are on, for the people who are still going to be on afterwards, I personally believe that there's a space in the middle of this council, a space in the middle of the 7 people, where you bring your skills and you bring your substantive positions. And if necessary, you get a facilitator who doesn't have a dog in the fight, who can help you to bring this thing to a reasonable resolution. I've seen that happen. I mean, I worked in the US government at a very high level, and it can happen. But you may need a process expert who doesn't have a dog in the fight, or people on the council who are good at facilitation and negotiation and are assemblers of things into a picture rather than fixed in a position. Brainstorm thoughts, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McCarter again. Michelle, you have your hand up, I believe.
One thing that I had forgotten to mention with my report, the mayor of Northville visited our downtown a couple of weekends ago on a Saturday. He was very interested to see our Mill Creek Park. He's heard from not only me, because I'm on certain committees with the city, but he's also heard from our consultants about Dexter's Mill Creek Park and the pathways that come in and out of the city and connect to other jurisdictional trails. The city of Northville is looking at ways to open up a portion of the Rouge River that runs currently through the Northville Downs property. And they want to make a linear park and connect to Hines Drives Park and other potential pathways that go through that portion of Wayne County and Oakland County. And they're looking to Dexter to see how we did that. Obviously, I was not here when you all did this, and I can come up with a lot of information, but they're going to have a group that's going to be part of a task force that would like to come out as a group and meet with some of the staff and council who would be interested in talking with them about what your process was, how you did this. So just keep that in mind. It's probably not going to happen before the end of the year, maybe in the winter time, but be a little cold, but they're looking for whatever guidance and information you can provide. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Be happy to participate if you need me.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other hands at the moment. So with that, I will seek a motion for adjournment. Oh, wait, Jim Smith. Okay, Jim.
Second.
Okay, second by Knight. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
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 Have a good week. Good luck to everybody in the election that's out there. And we'll see you in November.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.